Ever wondered what makes you you? Like, what's really going on at the tiniest level?
Interesting question.
Well, today, we are going to find out. We're going deep into biochemistry, the language of life
The
itself.
language of life. I like that.
We've got Biochemistry for Dummies all ready to go. I picked this one out especially for you,
Oh, thanks.
because you mentioned you wanted to understand the human body, like
Yeah.
all the way down to those molecules.
At the molecular level.
Exactly. Get ready for some serious aha moments.
I'm right.
You'll never look at a simple egg the same way again.
What? Why an egg?
Oh, just wait, we'll get to that.
Okay.
It all comes down to biochemistry. But first, let's get the big picture from our biochemistry expert here. So what does biochemistry actually cover? Well, what's it all about?
Okay, well, biochemistry is like taking chemistry,
Okay.
and then you add life to it.
Ah, okay.
It's basically the study of all the chemical processes
Right.
that are happening inside living organisms. And get this, it pulls from all the different branches of chemistry.
Really?
Yeah. We're talking organic chemistry, of course.
Right, for those carbon-based molecules.
Exactly. Those are the building blocks of life. But also inorganic chemistry.
What's that for?
Well, think about things like the iron in our blood. And even physical chemistry comes in.
Physical chemistry for biology.
Yeah, it helps us understand things like the rates of reactions happening in our cells.
Wow, so it really brings it all together. So it's like chemistry, but with this whole extra layer of like life happening on top of it.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with something I think we're all familiar with. Water.
Good place to start.
I was reading that our bodies are about 70% water.
Yeah, that's right.
So basically, understanding water means understanding ourselves.
Well, there's a lot more to water than meets the eye.
Really?
Yeah, it's not just some passive filler.
Huh.
Those water molecules, they're actually polar. Did you know that?
Polar meaning.
It means they have a slightly positive end and a slightly negative end.
Huh. I did not know that.
They're like little mini magnets.
Oh, okay. So they're like constantly attracting each other.
Exactly.
Wow. And is that why water is such a good solvent?
That's exactly it. Because of that polarity, water can dissolve all sorts of different substances. So it's
Yeah.
like the perfect stage for all those chemical reactions that make life possible.
Wow. I'm already learning so much.
It's pretty amazing, right?
It is. Okay, so the book used soap as an example to explain this whole polarity thing.
Okay.
And it said that soap's structure lets it grab oily dirt and mix it with water,
Right.
because soap has these two parts, hydrophobic and hydrophilic.
Yeah, that dual nature is key.
Hydrophobic and hydrophilic, what do those even mean?
Well, hydrophobic basically means it's afraid of water.
Okay.
It tries to avoid it. And hydrophilic, that means it loves water.
Ah, so one part of the soap molecule is trying to get away from water, and the other part is trying to get closer.
Exactly.
And that's how it can, like, pull the dirt away.
It allows it to kind of bridge the gap between the oily dirt and the water. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. And speaking of hydrophobic and hydrophilic,
Yeah.
this dual nature, it's also super important for our cells.
For my cells, what do you mean?
So our cell membranes, the outer layer of our cells, they're made up of special molecules called phospholipids.
Okay.
And guess what? They have that same hydrophobic and hydrophilic thing going on.
No way. So my cells are kind of like little pieces of soap.
Well, not exactly, but they do share that important characteristic. The hydrophobic part helps create a barrier, and the hydrophilic part interacts with the watery environment inside and outside the cell.
Wow.
So these phospholipids, they're able to form this like protective layer around our cells,
Okay.
and that controls what can go in and out.
So they're like tiny little bouncers, making sure only the right molecules get into the cell party.
That's a great way to put it. And without those carefully controlled borders,
Yeah.
our cells wouldn't be able to function at all.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, so speaking of cells, I love how the book compares them to like bustling factories. Yeah, it's a great analogy, right?
It is. It's amazing to think that there's all this activity happening inside these microscopic cities.
It really is. So you've got the nucleus, which is like the central control room.
Right, holding all the DNA.
Exactly. It contains those blueprints that tell the cell what to do. Then you've got the endoplasmic reticulum.
Oh, what a mouthful.
I know, right? It's often just called the ER. Anyway, the ER is like the production line,
Okay.
churning out proteins and other vital molecules. And then there are the mitochondria.
The powerhouses?
That's right. They generate all the energy the cell needs to keep running.
So if our cells are like factories,
Yeah.
then plant cells must be like superfactories.
I like that.
Right. I mean, they've got the chloroplasts for photosynthesis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They've got those extra features that let them perform photosynthesis.
Which is?
They basically capture energy from sunlight
Okay.
and use it to build energy-rich sugar molecules.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is. Those sugars power not only the plant itself, but also, the entire food chain.
Oh, right. Because we eat plants or we eat animals that eat plants.
Exactly.
Wow, so plant cells really are like the ultimate sustainable energy factories.
I like how you think.
Okay, so let's talk about everyone's favorite fuel, carbohydrates.
Okay.
But before you think it's all about cookies and cakes, is there more to carbs than just sweetness?
Definitely. At their core, carbohydrates are basically chains of sugar molecules.
Okay.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
The way those chains are structured, that's what makes all the difference.
How so?
Well, different structures lead to different functions in our bodies.
Like what?
Well, for example, we can't digest wood, right? Even though it's mostly made up of sugar molecules.
Oh, right. I remember reading that. So why can't we digest wood?
It's all about how those sugar molecules are linked together in wood.
Oh.
It's mainly composed of cellulose, which has a specific kind of linkage.
Okay.
And our enzymes, they just can't break those linkages.
So it's like we don't have the right key for the lock.
Exactly. Our digestive system just can't unlock the energy stored in those wood sugars.
That's fascinating. So we stick to potatoes for our carb fix.
Potatoes are a much better source of digestible carbohydrates for us.
Makes sense. Okay, now on to those often demonized lipids.
Yes, the fats.
Right. I know they're essential, but they sometimes get a bad rap.
They do. But lipids are way more than just villains.
I leave it.
It's a really diverse group of molecules.
Okay.
Including fats, oils, and even cholesterol, which is actually super important.
Cholesterol. But isn't that bad for you?
Well, too much of it can be, but our bodies need some cholesterol.
What for?
It's crucial for building cell membranes and making hormones, among other things.
Oh, right. I remember we were talking about cell membranes before.
Exactly. And those phospholipids that make up the cell membrane, they're lipids too.
Uh-huh. So they've got that same dual nature, the hydrophobic and hydrophilic parts.
Right. That dual nature lets them form those crucial barriers.
So cool. And the book mentioned that things like temperature and cholesterol levels can actually affect how fluid the cell membranes are.
You're right. The fluidity, how easily molecules move within the membrane, it's vital for cells to function properly.
Makes sense.
Oh.
Okay, so we've talked about water, carbs, and lipids. Now let's meet the real heroes of the cell, the proteins.
The workhorses.
Right. And I'm still amazed by this whole idea that a protein's shape determines its function.
Protein shape is everything. And it all starts with their primary structure.
It's
Simply the sequence of amino acids in the chain. Imagine it like a string of beads.
okay.
And each bead is a different amino acid.
Got it. So that's the primary structure.
Yep. Then you have the secondary structure.
Another layer.
Yeah. Here, the chain starts to twist and fold, forming these recognizable patterns.
Like what?
Things like alpha helices and beta sheets.
Huh. So it's like protein origami.
That's a great way to visualize it.
And is that it?
Nope, there's more. Next comes the tertiary structure.
What's that?
That's the overall 3D shape of a single protein molecule.
Okay.
And for some proteins, it goes even further.
You're kidding.
Nope. They form what's called a quaternary structure.
So that's like,
That's when multiple protein chains come together.
oh, so it's like a protein team up,
Exactly.
combining their power.
And every level of this structure, it's essential.
Wow.
If you disrupt that structure even just a little bit,
Yeah.
the protein can completely lose its function.
So that explains why cooking an egg changes its texture so much.
You got it. We're essentially denaturing the proteins in the egg white when we cook it.
Denaturing, what's that?
It means we're disrupting their shape.
Ah, so the heat unfolds those carefully folded proteins.
Exactly. And this just shows how sensitive proteins are to their environment.
Right.
Even small changes can have big consequences.
Wow, proteins are way more complicated than I thought.
They are fascinating molecules. So we've got these amazing proteins doing all this work.
Yeah.
But where do they get the energy?
Good question. What are they?
That's where ATP comes in.
ATP.
It stands for adenosine triphosphate.
Okay.
It's like the energy currency of the cell.
The energy currency. I like that analogy.
Think of them like tiny little rechargeable batteries
Okay.
powering all those cellular processes.
I see. And how do these batteries get recharged?
Well, one of the key players is the citric acid cycle.
Citric acid cycle.
It's also known as the Krebs cycle.
Okay.
It's happening inside the mitochondria, those powerhouses we were talking about.
Right.
It's like a molecular merry-go-round.
A merry-go-round.
Yeah, where molecules get broken down step by step, and that releases energy.
Okay.
And that energy is captured and stored in those ATP batteries.
So that's how the cells get their energy.
Exactly. And here's another cool thing.
Yeah.
Our bodies can actually make glucose.
Glucose, like sugar.
Yeah. From non-carb sources when needed.
Wait, really? How is that even possible?
It's called gluconeogenesis.
Gluconeogenesis. Wow, what a word.
I know, right? But it's basically our backup generator.
Backup generator.
Yeah. It makes sure our brains and other organs get the glucose they need even when we're not eating carbs.
So this kicks in during fasting or something.
Exactly, or if you're on a low-carb diet.
Wow, our bodies are amazing.
They are. So we've got the builders, the workers, and now the energy system.
Right.
But we can't forget about those essential micronutrients.
You mean vitamins and minerals?
Exactly. They're like the unsung heroes, making sure everything runs smoothly behind the scenes.
They're always kind of lumped together.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing they're not exactly the same thing.
You're right to be curious.
Okay, so what's the difference between vitamins and minerals?
Well, vitamins are organic compounds,
Organic meaning.
meaning they contain carbon. Minerals, on the other hand, are inorganic elements,
Elements like.
like iron, calcium, or potassium, for example.
So vitamins are more like complex molecules,
Got it.
and minerals are single elements.
Exactly. But they often work together, even though they have different roles.
Huh. Like how?
Well, for example, vitamin D helps our bodies absorb calcium,
Okay.
and calcium is crucial for strong bones and teeth.
So they're a team. It's incredible how all these tiny pieces fit together.
It really is. It's like a beautifully orchestrated symphony happening inside every one of us.
And that symphony, it's all thanks to biochemistry.
It's pretty mind-blowing, isn't it?
It really is. Makes you realize how important it is to, take care of ourselves.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned earlier that disrupting a protein's structure can mess it up, like it won't work anymore.
Right. It can make it lose its function.
What kind of things can cause that to happen?
Oh, lots of things. Heat, for example.
Like with the egg.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cooking that egg denatures the proteins.
Right.
But also changes in pH.
pH, like how acidic or basic something is.
Yeah, exactly. And exposure to certain chemicals.
Okay.
Even mechanical stress can disrupt those delicate bonds that hold a protein together.
So it's a protein has this sweet spot where it's happy,
Kind of, yeah.
and if anything pushes it out of that spot, it's like game over.
Pretty much. It's no longer going to function the way it should.
Wow, proteins are sensitive. Okay, now what about enzymes?
Enzymes.
Yeah, we touched on them earlier, but I'm ready to dive deeper into those catalytic marvels.
Haha. All right, let's dive in.
They seem to be like running the show at the cellular level.
They pretty much are. They're like tiny little molecular machines.
Okay.
And each one is specialized to speed up a particular chemical reaction in our bodies.
So without enzymes, our bodies would just grind to a halt.
A lot of those reactions would happen way too slowly to sustain life.
Wow.
Yeah, they're essential.
I remember reading that they work by lowering something called activation energy,
Right, that's key to how they work.
but I'm not sure I really get what that means.
Okay, well, think of it like this. For any reaction to happen,
Yeah.
the molecules need to overcome an energy barrier. It's like they have to climb a hill to get to the other side.
Go.
So the activation energy, that's like the height of that hill.
Ah, I see. So the higher the hill.
The harder it is for the reaction to happen.
Got it. So what do enzymes do?
They create a shortcut, like a tunnel, through the hill.
A tunnel.
Yeah. So the molecules don't need as much energy to get to the other side.
So it's less of a climb and more of a, stroll through a park.
Exactly.
Genius.
Yeah.
And the book mentioned something about enzymes being regulated. What's that all about?
Oh, yeah. That's super important, too. So their activity can be fine-tuned.
Fine-tuned.
Yeah. Depending on what the cell needs at any given moment,
Oh, okay.
they can be activated or inhibited, turned on or off.
Oh, so it's like they're being controlled
In a way, yes. And it makes sure the right reactions are happening.
at the right time.
Exactly. And at the right pace.
Wow, so it's all very carefully orchestrated.
It really is. Like a delicate dance.
Okay, so we've talked about breaking things down for energy, but I'm guessing our bodies also need to, build things up, right?
You're exactly right. And that's where anabolism comes in.
And
It's all about building complex molecules from simpler ones.
So it's like construction, building a house brick by brick.
That's a great analogy. And that building process, it needs energy
Which comes from?
from breaking things down.
Right, catabolism, right?
Yep. Catabolism releases energy, and that energy is used to fuel the anabolic processes.
So it's like this constant cycle.
It is breaking down and building up, happening all the time.
And all those metabolic pathways are like interconnected, right?
Exactly. It's this incredibly complex web of reactions.
Mind-boggling.
And here's what's really mind-blowing.
What?
All those pathways, they're carefully regulated and coordinated.
But how is that even possible?
It's like an incredibly intricate symphony with every molecule playing its part.
It's almost too much to comprehend.
I know, it's amazing. And understanding these processes can have a huge impact in so many areas.
Like what?
Well, think about medicine, for example.
Okay.
Designing new drugs, developing therapies, even understanding diseases at a molecular level, it's all connected.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, before we move on, can you remind me about those vitamins and minerals again?
Sure, remember there are those essential micronutrients.
Right, we need them in small amounts.
Exactly, but we can't make them ourselves, so we have to get them from our diet.
And they're different, right? Vitamins and minerals.
Yes. Vitamins are organic compounds, meaning they contain carbon,
Okay,
while minerals are inorganic elements.
like iron and calcium.
Exact.
So vitamins are like complex molecules, and minerals are single elements.
You got it.
And even though they're different, they often work together. Right.
Right. Like we were saying before, vitamin D helps us absorb calcium.
And calcium is crucial for strong bones.
That's right. They're a great team.
It's amazing how our bodies have figured all this out.
It really is. Okay, ready to move on to genetics.
Genetics, yes. That's like the instruction manual for our bodies.
Exactly. At the core of it all is DNA, the molecule that carries all our genetic information.
Wow. So DNA determines everything about us.
Well, it plays a huge role, yeah. It's like a blueprint that determines our traits. Everything from our eye color to our predisposition to certain diseases.
And DNA is made up of those 4 nucleotides, right?
You're on a roll: adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine.
Right. I remember those from biology class. But how do those 4 little letters code for all that complexity?
It's the sequence that matters. Those nucleotides are arranged in a specific order.
Okay.
It's a code that spells out our genetic instructions.
And that code tells our cells how to build proteins.
Exactly. The DNA sequence determines the amino acid sequence in proteins, which ultimately dictates our traits.
So it all goes back to proteins.
In a way, yeah, it's all connected. Now, one thing that's really remarkable about DNA is how accurately it gets replicated.
Replicated meaning?
Copied. Every time a cell divides, it needs to make a copy of its DNA so that each new cell has a complete set of instructions.
Right, that makes sense.
And this replication process, it's amazingly accurate.
How accurate are we talking?
Well, there's this proofreading mechanism that corrects most of the errors.
Proofreading.
Like a molecular spell checker.
That's a great analogy. DNA polymerase, the enzyme that's responsible for adding the nucleotides during replication,
Yeah.
it has this incredible proofreading ability.
No way. So it double checks its work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And makes sure that the genetic code is copied faithfully.
But even with all that proofreading, mistakes can still happen, right?
Unfortunately, yes. Those mistakes are what we call mutations.
Mutations, those are like typos in the DNA code.
Exactly. They're changes in the DNA sequence.
And what causes them?
Lots of things, actually. Mistakes during replication,
Oh.
exposure to radiation, certain chemicals.
So our DNA is constantly under attack.
In a way, yes. But our cells have repair mechanisms to fix most of the damage.
That's good to know.
But sometimes those mutations slip through.
And what happens then?
Well, it depends on the mutation.
You said earlier that they can have different effects.
Right. Some mutations are silent,
Silent meaning?
meaning they don't have any noticeable effect on the organism.
Oh, okay.
Others can lead to variations in traits.
Like eye color?
Exactly. Or height, or even things like how we respond to certain medications.
Interesting.
And then some mutations, unfortunately, they can lead to diseases.
Oh, right.
So it's a wide range of possibilities.
It's fascinating and
Mhm.
kind of scary to think that these tiny changes in our DNA can have such big consequences.
It is. And the study of mutations, it's a key part of understanding how diseases develop.
So we can learn how to treat them.
Exactly. Or even how to prevent them.
Wow. Okay, this is all incredibly complex.
It is. But it's also incredibly beautiful.
I'm starting to see that.
The more we learn about genetics, the more we realize how much we still don't know.
So much to explore.
Exactly. It's a field full of possibilities.
Okay, so we've gone from water molecules to enzymes, ATP, and now mutations.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. I feel like my brain is full.
I know what you mean. But hopefully it's full of new insights and a deeper appreciation for the complexity of life.
It definitely is. I feel like I'm seeing the world differently now.
I'm glad to hear that. That's the power of knowledge.
It is. It's amazing to think that all this is happening inside of us right now, like at this very moment.
It is pretty incredible.
I feel like I'm seeing the world in a whole new way. Like everything's this giant biochemical reaction just unfolding all around us.
You're getting it. And it's not just us.
Right.
It's happening in every living thing around us.
So we're all connected by biochemistry.
Exactly. From the smallest bacteria to the tallest redwood tree, it's all the same language of life.
That's pretty mind-blowing. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground, but I have to admit,
Yeah.
I'm still a little fuzzy on the specifics of DNA replication.
Okay, what about it is fuzzy?
Well, you were talking about how accurate it is.
Right. Incredibly accurate.
But how does that actually work? Like, can you walk me through it step by step?
Sure. So picture DNA as this twisted ladder.
The double helix.
Exactly. And during replication, that ladder needs to be unzipped, separating the two strands.
So it's like unzipping a zipper.
Perfect analogy. And once those strands are separated, each one acts as a template for building a new strand.
Okay.
It's like having a blueprint to guide the construction.
So each new DNA molecule ends up with one old strand and one brand new strand.
That's right. And this whole process is carried out by a team of enzymes.
Oh, right. Enzymes are everywhere.
They really are. Each enzyme has a specific job to do.
And one of the key players is DNA polymerase.
You got it. That's the enzyme that actually adds the nucleotides to the growing DNA chain.
So it's like the construction worker carefully placing each brick.
Perfect. It matches each new nucleotide with its complement on the template strand.
And that's where the proofreading comes in, right?
Exactly. DNA polymerase is super precise.
Wow.
It double-checks each nucleotide, it adds and corrects any mistakes.
It's like the ultimate quality control.
Right. It ensures that the genetic code is copied accurately.
But even with all that checking, sometimes errors still slip through, right?
That's true. Nothing is perfect.
And those errors, those are the mutations.
Yep. Mutations are basically changes in the DNA sequence.
And those changes can be caused by, like you said, mistakes during replication or exposure to radiation or chemicals.
Exactly. And the effects of those mutations, well, they can vary a lot.
Right. You mentioned some are silent, some cause variations in traits, and some can even lead to diseases.
It's a whole spectrum of possibilities.
It's kind of amazing and a bit scary that these tiny changes in our DNA can have such a huge impact.
It is. And studying mutations is crucial for understanding how diseases develop and how we might be able to treat them.
Or even prevent them.
Exactly.
Wow. This whole deep dive has been incredible. We've learned so much about water, cells, energy, enzymes, proteins, DNA, mutations.
It's been quite a journey through the world of biochemistry.
It really has. I feel like I have a whole new appreciation for how complex and amazing life is.
That's what's so exciting about biochemistry. There's always more to learn. Who knows what incredible discoveries are still out there just waiting to be uncovered.
I can't wait to find out. And for our listener out there, remember, knowledge is even more powerful when you share it.
Absolutely.
So tell your friends, your family, anyone who'll listen about what you've learned about biochemistry. Let's spread the excitement.
Let's get everyone thinking about the amazing molecular world happening inside them.
This deep dive was tailored just for you. But remember, everyone has a body made up of these incredible molecules.
We're all connected by biochemistry.
Exactly. So keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep exploring the incredible world around you. Who knows what you'll discover?